Look, I don't wanna talk. How you try and press the kid and really you was soft. All you know is capping, homie, you don't know the law. Pedal to the metal, you ain't catching me in park. I just need to stop. I don't wanna speak. Talking all that good, so I just hit you with the please. Running up the score like Tyreek, I'm going deep. Watch me how I'm saucing, I be spreading it with ease. You don't tell peace.
Alright, g'day guys, welcome back to another everyday engineering video. So tonight we have a E30 BMW with a little bit of a spicy SR20 in it. So they're going to run some little ponies through this bad boy, and the thing that they have is they're doing a CD009 6-speed conversion on it, and the problem that they have is with the standard gearbox tunnel, apparently from a heap of measuring, it fits the front half quite snugly. It, probably not super neat, but it will fit in there. From about the shifter here back, you can actually see the floor dip down and then come back up. This handbrake part right here actually sits probably 20 to 30 mil lower than this section of the floor. So when they put a single piece tail shaft in, it's going to interfere with the floor. So we're just going to put a raised tunnel from this part from probably about here somewhere back. We're going to make it a little bit wider up around this section because the back of the CD009 is a little bit thicker. And yeah, we'll see how we go. Underneath it's quite a lot going on underneath it. There's a lot of little braces and whatever that the tail shaft would hit. So I'll show you what's involved with underneath. I'm not sure how we're going to make the handbrake cables and stuff work, whether we can make the factory stuff work, cut it up, change it, or whether we have to go to something, engineer something to make it work. But we'll cross that when we get to it. For now, we'll raise the tunnel up. I might give it back to him, make sure the tail shaft, everything fits when they put the gearbox in. Me personally, I'll cut the car out, fit the gearbox, do the whole conversion, and then I'll do all the sheet metal work last. But this is the way they want to go about it, so we'll see how we go. Hopefully we don't have to do it twice, so we'll just make it a little bit bigger than it has to be, make sure it fits, do the handbrake part, after it goes back, and make sure the gearbox fits, just in case we have to throw a front tunnel in it. But yeah, I'll show you underneath. So looking from the back, we've got this brace here that used to hold the fuel tank in. It used to sit up in this void up here, which is why they had a 2-piece tail shaft to go down and then back up to the diff. There's these 2 tubes here run all the way back, actually have the handbrake cables in them, and you can see this is all bracing that supports that handbrake part inside the car. So we're going to have to cut that out and save it, mark where it went, so we can try and put it back in later on. That bracing up the front there as well, it's hard to see because I can't really get up tall enough, but yeah, the tail shaft runs uphill like that, so it's going to interfere with that brace. So yeah, this whole section of the tunnel will get cut out, take some accurate measurements so we can work out where this has to go back in if we're going to use it, or if we're going to go to a custom handbrake and cable assembly. So yeah. What an absolute dumbass. I just filmed that last little bit of me explaining what I've done on a time lapse, so enjoy that because you won't be able to understand it. Pretty much what I said was I have done a few witness marks on the tunnel now. I've put a center line down the guts of it. I've marked across where I'm going to butcher this center part out where the handbrake is. Mainly that is because I can then flip it upside down, unpick the brace from underneath that bit of the floor, which will be way, way, way easier with it out of the car. So I can just butcher a big bit out because we're not going to use it. These are the center lines that I've put in. This sound deadening part here is actually in the car quite square. So a couple of witness marks off the side of the car, off these spot welds, off the outside of this form piece, I've created a center line. These studs, thank you BMW, are actually in the center of the car, so I'll put a center line down the middle of there. I'll put a measurement in here, which is 250mm from that line to there and 535 from that line to there. So if I reuse this later on, all I have to do is go off the center line and those two measurements, and this will be in the standard position. It'll just be a little bit taller. So yeah, now I'm gonna butcher that out, put that to one side, and then we'll move on to cutting the rest of the tunnel and making the new bit. Yo, snip snip. So I've just cut that handbrake part out of the floor. As you can see, those tubes are quite long. I've cut them back underneath from further back from where I'm going to cut the tunnel and make the new tunnel go to. The reason for that being is where I've cut it is where the tubes go in a straight line just before they hit the diff and go up over the cradle. So I can join them back together later on with either a sleeve or make something custom. But until I know how much clearance I have with the tail shaft in the car, I won't actually know. So we've got to wait for the new gearbox to go in before I do that. So I've got my measurements, got the line, cut this bit out. So now I just need to take an educated guess as to where I'm going to cut it next. This part here flares out a bit, so we want to make it a little bit wider up around this section here. So I'm going to actually probably trim it just inside this seat mount here and maybe notch this little bit out because that sticks out further, and go from there back up onto the top of here because this actually is a little bit of a hump, whereas the tail shaft goes way up into here somewhere. So yeah, it all depends where the gearbox sits, but I don't know because the gearbox isn't in the car. So yeah, start cutting, make the tunnel as big as possible as what we can, not as wide as possible, just a little bit taller, and yeah, go from there. So now I'll scrub some more marks, cut that out, and we'll make a new piece. I've got the tunnel all cut, it's all nice and straight lines, so when I fold the tunnel it should be pretty straightforward to weld in. I've left the back a little bit bigger, flared the front out to make room for the back of the gearbox. Being a remote shift, it should be okay. But I've just cut this sheet out behind me, which is going to be that rear tunnel section. My folder's a little bit too small to fold it on, so I'm just going to quickly run into work and fold it there, and then I'll come back and we'll weld it in. You. We now have the tunnel folded. I've quickly trimmed it up. I've left about 25 mil on the bottom half of it, so after I've welded it in from the top, I can jump underneath the car and then trim that excess off, and you can see actually through the sheet where you've welded, where the penetration is, to clean it up, and then afterwards it all gets seam sealed and just protection so it doesn't rust from the bottom up, and then this top bit will get edge primed when we send it back. But yeah, I'll show you what it looks like now. It fits pretty bloody good. It should be fairly simple to weld. That top sheet is like 0.6 mil thick because it's normally dual layered, and I've had to cut all the gussets out, but with those folds in that sheet it should be super stiff. So I'll show you what it looks like and then we'll get to welding. Apologies, last night my GoPro died while it was doing a time lapse of me welding the tunnel out. I ended up getting it fully welded in. It looks super good. I'm just about to clean it up and cut the excess off the bottom of the tunnel. I'll jump under there and show you what I meant by you can see where you've welded from the top through to the bottom so you know where to cut it. I'll jump under and you guys can see that. I'll quickly show you what the tunnel looks like before I clean it up, seam seal it and etch prime it, and then it can go back to the customer. Super happy with it for a pretty simple job. You know, you can make it look neat. So yeah, moving on, and I won't film me cutting all the crap off it because I gotta lay down here. You won't be able to see much. It'll probably be boring anyway. Yeah, I'll show you what it looks like afterwards. Into the grotty job. As you can see, right where I've welded all the way through. So yeah, you come just below this weld here and nick that off, and then you can give it a little bit of a linish. These braces I'll end up cutting up and over like that, and they can even be welded from here back onto there and make that super strong. And yeah, the rest of it gets all etch primed and seam sealed. That's before cleaning it up. This is what the bottom looks like once it's all cleaned up, trimmed. Ends up being super tidy. All of the clearance in the world up there. So yeah, just got to seam seal it, etch prime it, and onto the top half. that is the tunnel finished on this BMW E30. Thanks for watching, guys. If you could like, subscribe, throw me a comment if there's anything you guys would like to know or ways that I do things. If you want me to go further into detail about why I do them, I'm more than happy to do that. Once again, I'm still learning with all this sort of stuff, so I'm just kind of vlogging it so I can watch my learning curve and see what we can do in the future. But thank you heaps for watching. For the people that do it, I hope it's not too boring for you. That concludes this episode. Moving on, I really want to get stuck into my XT130 Corona. I need to build some flares for it, do some pretty door cards, which I have some really cool ideas on how I want to do that, which means getting back on the bead roller and the swager, making some flares up for these bad boys, which I still need to build another 2 sets of wheels yet. They're up there in the roof. I just haven't had time to do them. I've got the barrels and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, I got some drifting videos coming up as well of my Carmack Revive S13, so that would be cool. Yeah, let me know what you guys want to see. I'll try and get some little bit of different content getting around for you so you can kind of see what I get up to from day to day, and on the weekends we get up to some pretty cool stuff. So until next time, see you soon.
Look, I don't wanna talk. How you try and press the kid and really you was soft. All you know is capping, homie, you don't know the law. Pedal to the metal, you ain't catching me in park. I just need to stop. I don't wanna speak. Talking all that good, so I just hit you with the please. Running up the score like Tyreek, I'm going deep. Watch me how I'm saucing, I be spreading it with ease. You don't see the peace.